Hi, how you doing? And welcome back to another video on the channel. What we have for you today is our preview video going into Game Week 23. Going to take a review look at how my team did in Game Week 22. Then we're going to talk team selection and captaincy options moving forward. We're also going to have a real look at my transfers as well for my team because I've got 5 free transfers and $1 million in the bank. So I am planning on making some big moves for the future game weeks. Hopefully that'll help you out with your transfer thoughts for your own team as well. If it does, why not subscribe? We've had some new subscribers since the last video, which is awesome. And we are closing in on 300 subscribers, which would be a huge achievement. So thank you to everyone who's supported the channel so far. If you can help us reach 300, that would also be really appreciated. So let's take a look at how the team did in Game Week 22. And it was another green arrow of about 100k. Last week we had a green arrow of literally 2k. So it's much nicer to have a bigger green arrow this game week. It didn't really happen in goal for us though, because Raya got 1 point. Another game week without a clean sheet for pretty much the most expensive goalkeeper in the game. So he is someone that I am thinking of moving out for future game weeks, but we'll delve into that a bit more later in the video. Fabianski actually outscored him this game week, and you think, God, when should have started the West Ham goalkeeper over the Arsenal goalkeeper. It really does make you question everything. Defence, on the other hand, was awesome. Colwell didn't play last night, so Bednarek came off the bench with 7 points. You know, if you're ever going to get your Southampton defender to come in for your squad off the bench, make sure it's the game week when they actually score. And you know, out of all the game weeks, this was the one really did appreciate those extra 7 points because it made a big difference to my score. Robinson and Hall also got some returns for the price. My defence have been awesome this season. I think they're really scoring well, and it's somewhere where I'm able to go cheaper and then can invest the money elsewhere. Midfield though, again, wasn't great, a bit like the keeper situation. Bruno managed to score, but even that was a penalty. Iwobi got taken off at half time, which after scoring 15 points the game week before, I was like, well, I've got to start Iwobi this week. But at that price, he is just one of those players who could score 15 points in any given week, and you've just got to hope you've got him in your lineup for that week, because more often than not, he'll get you 1 or 2 points. And the same for someone like Sarr. Got me 6 points the game week before, 3 points this game week. It's not that big a deal. You get him in for the potential high upside. Salah actually blanked, and I'm sure Palmer captainers were loving that going into Monday's game, but then Palmer actually scored less than Salah. So between the two, it was the right decision to captain Salah, but it didn't really make too much of a difference to my rank rises because they were so highly owned and both of them were so highly captained. Up front, a little bit mixed again. Isak blanked, but Mateta got 13 points, and the rank rise was so big really because it was my low-owned players that returned. And this is something that's important to consider with your own team because it doesn't really matter how Salah, Palmer and Isak do. Obviously, captaincy has a bit of an impact on that, getting the right captaincy. But if they all scored 15 points or if they all scored 2 points, it doesn't really have that much of an impact in my overall rank rise because of their high ownership. You're not gaining or losing points over anyone else. Where you can gain the rank is players like Mateta and Bruno. Mateta I got in a few game weeks ago and he's still only 5% owned. So his points are a lot more valuable to a rank rise than if Isak was to get 13 points, just due to ownership. So I think it's important to consider with your own teams moving forward. Obviously, you need those high-owned players, your Salahs, your Palmers, your Isaks, just so you don't fall behind everybody else. But have a look at those middle teams, those mid-price players, and their fixtures moving forward. Even if they've not scored that well recently, if they've got good fixtures, that's when those points are going to come in, and you want to jump on them before they've happened. After Mateta's good run of fixtures, I'll probably take him out again because it's all about jumping on these players at the right time. So yeah, it's just a thought moving forward, just that might help you with your own teams as well when you're looking for your transfers. So in terms of fixtures for this game week and captaincy, I don't really see a world where you don't captain Salah. I'm assuming everyone watching this video probably owns Salah. I don't think you'll see a video from a content creator this game week where they're saying, oh, captain someone else other than Salah. Ipswich at home, they've just conceded 6 to Man City. There's a high chance Liverpool want to match that and show the league that they're still the top team. Anything Man City can do, we can also do. If you really wanted to go someone else, I'd probably go for Isak away at Southampton. But I know it won't make too much of a difference if they get in the plane down. But Southampton is pretty far away from Newcastle. So I do think that is something to also consider when looking at captaining teams that, are away from home. It does make a difference. Teams typically are worse away from home than at home. So I think Liverpool being at home to Ipswich, it doesn't need loads of analysis in it. Everyone's probably going to be captaining Salah, and therefore you also want to captain him just to, not take too big a risk and get left behind the rest of the FPL managers in your mini league. So in terms of the team for this game week, it's looking okay, but we do have players, Chelsea away at Man City, Fulham at home to Man United away to Fulham. It's not the best game week overall, and like I said before, I do have 5 free transfers to use, so I'm going to use them. And this is sort of why we save them up for when there's fixture swings. We try and attack the different fixtures and make some changes to, take into account things like the double game week in 24. So as we said at the start of the video, one option I could make is taking out Raya to Pickford. Now, the main reason for this is that Pickford has the double game week in 24. That Leicester game at home is really the game you want to get him in. Now, I'm never a massive fan of making keeper transfers using free transfers. And the main reason for that is that they've got the smallest ceiling out of every position. The maximum points your keeper can get in a game week is, let's say, 7. If they keep a clean sheet, make a few saves, maybe they get a bonus point as well. Maybe you could look at 8 points. Well, everywhere else on the pitch, you could get a player who could score you 15 points. And yeah, that's possible with the goalkeepers, because if they save a penalty and keep a clean sheet, you're talking a massive return. But how often does that actually happen? And, Raya is also capable of doing that as much as Pickford. I also look at Arsenal's fixtures, Wolves, Leicester and West Ham in the next 4. Obviously you get that extra game with Pickford, but clean sheets are quite hard to come by anyway. So I'm not too sure it's worth that free transfer. And I can also make the moves I want to make without saving that extra 0.5 million. So one transfer that I am, 99% going to make is transferring out Jackson. He's just been dropping in price recently, and he's also just not scoring goals. His returns have really dried up, I would say, in the last 6-7 game weeks, probably since I got him in. So one option I could make is transferring out Jackson to Gakpo. Now, Gakpo has blanked in his last 2, but before that he did get 6 returns in his 7 games. So he's on 6 returns in the last 9. And those Liverpool fixtures look awesome. I think if you're going to get a Liverpool player in, I would get him in before the Ipswich game. And then you take advantage of Ipswich and the double game week. Make the moves now if you can, if you've got the free transfers. Another option I'm looking at doing for Jackson is Ndiaye from Everton. Now, an Everton attacker might not seem as good an option to a Liverpool attacker, but there's a reason that I'm considering Ndiaye. Now, Calvert-Lewin's also an option, but I just think Ndiaye is somebody who really does stand out for just having that explosiveness, and he just seems to be a bit more on it. And when you're looking at potential Everton options compared to Liverpool options, when you're looking at Everton defenders, you compare them to Liverpool defenders like Trent and Van Dijk, and you just think, God, Trent and Van Dijk are so much better. They're so much more likely to keep a clean sheet. And the same for midfielders. I don't really see where you could potentially, overtake an Everton defender, bring them in over a Liverpool midfielder. I think where the difference in points potential is smallest is up front. So I could save 2 million on getting Ndiaye over Gakpo, but also Ndiaye is getting the 90 minutes. Gakpo's kind of getting an hour and then getting taken off for someone like Darwin Núñez. So if I also went for Ndiaye, I could do Colwill to Trent. Now, that is a huge upgrade for me, especially with the fixtures moving forward. And someone like Colwill and Jackson, I can drop them now. They've got Leicester and Southampton in game weeks 27 and 28, but I can also get them back in. The fixture swing is massive, the upside is massive, so that's another motivation for getting Ndiaye in instead of Gakpo. I still think Gakpo's a good option, but this allows me to facilitate the Colwell to Trent. Another option could be Iwobi to McAllister. Now, I can do this transfer regardless. I think people say, oh, McAllister, that's a bit of a weird one. Well, even with all these transfers, if I make the Jackson to Ndiaye and the Colwell to Trent, I can't afford anyone else other than Szoboszlai from Liverpool. McAllister actually has 5 returns in his last 6 games. So 2 of those games were where he got 2 assists in each. So it's really sort of, they're grouped together. It's not quite spread out returns, but I think he does have that upside. And when you're comparing his minutes to other midfielders like Curtis Jones or Szoboszlai, McAllister is playing and getting 90 minutes most weeks. So he is someone that I'm thinking, I could get that differential pick. We talked about it at the start of the video. Where are these players that are low owned that could have high upside? And I think McAllister is a low risk, especially when you're taking out someone like Iwobi. It's not like I'm saying you transfer Palmer to McAllister, or I'm considering doing that. This is a move where I think Iwobi's fixtures aren't great at all. Man United, Newcastle, Forest and Palace, aren't ideal teams in a run, especially when he's just got taken off at half-time. So for me, it looks a pretty, clear-cut transfers. So I'm less likely to make the Raya move. I am a lot more likely to do Jackson to Ndiaye, Colwell to Trent, and Iwobi to McAllister. But let me know what you think. I also do quite like someone like Decore from Everton. We talked about this in the wildcard video, so go check that out if you haven't already. David Moyes loves a big midfielder from set pieces. Think Fellaini, Thomas Soucek. And Decore could be that player. But for me, McAllister is such a lower risk in terms of getting points, and it would give me the Liverpool triple up and an Everton player for the double. And by the time those fixtures are done, I'll have built up 5 free transfers again, as long as there's no injuries, so I can always just rotate them out again. One area where I might fall down is if I decide to maybe use the assistant manager chip. I wouldn't be able to get in Arne Slot here, but I'm also prepared to just leave the assistant manager chip and just wait for a potential better opportunity later in the season. So yeah, let me know what you think about my transfers. Let me know if you've got any transfer questions of your own as well. Always happy to chat FPL, and it's good to sort of help each other out and I get different ideas, for your team as well. Sometimes you can get a bit tunnel visioned when you're focusing on your team, and having a different opinion can really help. So happy to help with that. Also very grateful for any help we can get as well. Please do subscribe to the channel. It's really appreciated. Hopefully you've had a good game week, and I will see you in the next one.